It's 8 p.m. It's Thursday night. It's the American Soccer TV podcast, the ASTV, and it's the three lads who are not the Monday boys. And of course, it's American Scouser TV, but that's what happens when you can't wear your glasses on a podcast and you're trying to squint to see where everything is. Good evening, everybody. Is a nice Thursday, actually, because we had a nice Liverpool game to entertain us, and we had a nice win as well, which we will talk about today. But before we do any of that, Trevor, how are you today?
Doing pretty good. Big win, and just here for the ASTV with the little the preamble. We got a little preamble in today.
We got a preamble today. Yeah, we're going up in the world. We're getting fancy, Dan. Brian, how are you today?
Happy for the win, but not happy to lose my vacation.
I'm sure we'll touch on that later. The woes that have befallen Brian, and then the woes of getting no sleep and getting overworked for me and Trevor, I think, would be the story of the day for us too. But let's look at the agenda for tonight. We will have a look at the game. It's Puntastic Thursday. Nothing lasts forever. We'll talk about the game today. It was nice to get back into the European nights, even if it is the Europa League and not where we would expect Liverpool to be. It's still a trophy I certainly want us to win for Klopp, if nothing else, for the club. So it was nice to get that off the ground. We will talk about the reports on, at least on the BBC new football website, that Daniel Levy would consider selling up if the right offer came in. And we will discuss some of that. And then we will look ahead to the game at the weekend. David Moyes' intrepid European experienced old hands, who also had a good game tonight, actually, and a good result for them too. But we play them on Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern, so at Anfield, so that should be good. And then we'll end, as always, with our threshold question. But let us start with, of course, the game today. Yet again, a game of two halves, and yet again, we give a team a head start, and yet again, we come back from behind to, in the end, really comfortably win a game of football. Trevor, how did you see the game? And I don't mean in which streaming module. You don't want to give those secrets away, but how did you perceive the game?
Yeah, it was something that I had to kind of piece together, like a really like a Temu bought jigsaw puzzle to kind of get everything in today. But yeah, like you said, this is something that we've become all too accustomed to, giving up that first goal and doing so in very disappointing fashion. Just a simple play where you kind of just need to get rid of it. If you're not going to mark guys properly on set pieces, at least when the ball comes in and you have an opportunity, just get rid of it. This trying to like simple one touches in our own box needs to stop. And it led to a goal, but since it is the Europa League, I didn't feel super down about it because of all the weaponry we had on the bench. Plus, LASK is a team that, if you do like just cursory glances over them, is not the strongest of defenses. The Austrian Bundesliga is always a league that has tons of 4-3s and 5-4s in them, just between the top teams and teams all over the place. Not the most defensive league. So I didn't have those moments of trepidation like, oh no, will we be able to come back? But it was just frustrating to see that first one go in, even though, like I said, the second half, completely different story, kind of imposed our will. Gravenberch kind of grabbed a hold of the game after really struggling for that first half an hour. And yeah, it was smooth sailing from there.
Brian, let me ask you a question. See what I did there? We're hitting the heights tonight, boys. Did you, like me, see that game as it almost felt like a preseason friendly with a bunch of new players trying to get to know each other, a few old hands in there to keep things steady, and it just didn't gel? Or were we as bad as we have been in terms of our psychological starts to games, where we just don't seem to be at the races until somebody puts a ball in the back of the net?
It definitely seemed like a preseason match to me. I mean, there was definitely that had that feel with it. I mean, Bashatek going through on the, as a right back. I mean, you had Ben Doak going through on that same side. I mean, you had Kanote and Verge for the first time they've actually been together. I think for a while right there to actually communicate together. I mean, Cinecast on the left. I mean, it was definitely a whole feel of like a new group of players trying to gel together and see what kind of formation works the best for the club and going forward. Um, the first half was what from all the highlights I was able to see right there through there because I was at work, obviously. It looked like the first half was pretty messy. I mean, it looked like there was nobody really had possession. I think we also had a lot of problems. I saw Nunez go there and have like a clear misses. I mean, just different things that were going on with that side. So yeah, I think it's a very preseason-ish type feel, and we didn't really get a good grasp until the match until it looked like to probably about the 50-minute mark is when we actually started feeling like we actually controlled the match. So and that's when you started getting your main first team players in the mix there. But it's 3 points. And that's what we wanted right there. It's a +2 goal differential. So I mean, it's a good start.
Trevor, in terms of the lineup and in terms of that kind of preseason feel, there were times when Doak, Elliott, and Bajcetic at right back were all on the same side of the field. I believe Elliott spent a lot more time on the left side once the subs were made of the central midfield. I don't think any of the three of them did anything to embarrass themselves any more than the rest of the team may have done in the first part of the game, and looked fairly solid, especially Doak. I thought Doak looked, confident, and he looked like he could do some stuff. Is that a nice insight into the future, or was it just because of the opponent?
No, I think Doak is the one that I think was the big one, because he's a guy that really needs to at least be part of the plans. If not, he's not. I don't think he's going to be the direct replacement for when Mo finally leaves. I think he'll just be an understudy for a little bit, but he's already showing that he's capable of. And I already kind of ran down LASK a little bit, but they're in Europe. They're a team in Europe, and this is a game in Europe where you're asking this kid to do a job, and he was able to do it for the most part. It wasn't, and like you said, they didn't really like set the world on fire, but they didn't make a bad account of themselves either, where they were making a ton of mistakes or they were leaving things open. I think he did what he had to do. He didn't make any super big errors, but he didn't make any super big plays. He was just kind of there. And that sounds like I'm like ragging on him, but also in the scheme of things where you don't want a kid to get that one play that really just kills his confidence, to just kind of have a game where and we've talked about this all the times on this channel with Curtis Jones, like the Curtis Jones game where you don't really talk about him, and then he pops up and makes that one big pass or that one big tackle. That's the best Curtis Jones game, because if he's getting the ball a lot, that means that something has gone wrong. And I think with Doak in this game, we weren't like forcing the ball up one side, trying to get these guys involved. It was kind of just organic. And when he touched it, he didn't really screw anything up. So I think that's a step going forward. And it's going to give him confidence for when we have to use him probably a lot during AFCON. And Bajcetic we'll talk about in a little bit, just because he was playing opposition. Elliott, yeah, he is where he is, but Doak was the one that I really wanted to single out.
Brian, your thoughts on that? But then also, I want to make like kind of an observation with in that first sloppy 15 minutes, there were passes going astray all over the place. There were passes going out for throw-ins. It looked like at times a team of Fellinis. Just if you were a Manchester United fan looking at that, you probably had PTSD watching it, more so than the fact that you're watching Liverpool in Europe. But once it gels together as much as it can for a bunch of relative strangers in a competitive game, Endo looked quite tidy, nothing spectacular, but as I think we've mentioned on this show before, almost like a Lucas Leiva. He just did his job. He did it to the best of his ability, and he made sure the machine was ticking over. But for me, the revelation was Gravenberch. Apparently, it's Gravenberch. That's what the commentator in my feed was saying. But he once he got a grip of the game, he looked the part, didn't he?
Yeah, that cross that he had for Diaz was a peach. I mean, I couldn't say any more better about that. I mean, it seemed like he grew into the game, and I think that he's going to be the player that we saw at Ajax. That we saw that was grabbing teams, grabbing that squad by the cuffs of their neck. I think that we have a really bright future with him. I mean, I guess it includes that entire midfield. I mean, with this upcoming. But again, he grew with the match. I think the Endo really came through once he was actually got a feel for the match. I think it seemed like it took like about a good 20 minutes for Endo to feel where he was at and what he was supposed to be doing on the pitch. I guess it could be this was not the lack of playing time that he had, but it seemed like once he was established that he came through and actually put that squad together. But it just seemed like there was a lot of waste in that first half. I mean, like you were going on with Ben Doak. I mean, Ben Doak, I've watched him do a couple runs. I mean, he himself had a decent cross that went nowhere in the box. But I mean, also with Harvey right there, it just seemed like there was a lot of this all over the place. So it was like it just didn't seem like they seemed very disjointed at moments right there. And I think there was almost like needed to be a settling factor. And I think after they got the goal in, it seemed like they kind of took control of the match a little bit better and, moving forward. But it seemed like that first 15 minutes was, I really don't know what I was watching in
that. Trevor, was it a disjointed first half at least, or most of the first half, as Brian says? But did you, like me, get the impression that Nunez was actually trying to grab the game with the scruff of the neck, because he put himself about a bit in that first half? Should have had that headed goal, which was, I don't know, just maybe the wrong height or maybe the wrong split second, or the goalkeeper just really read that ball in very well. But he really looked like the player that we wanted him to be when he signed, in terms of his size and in terms of his aggression. And it just looks like he's getting better and better integrated into the team by the week, doesn't it?
Yeah, and we've kind of just seen that progression all season, and because everybody wants to just point to the Newcastle game, but it is something where he's getting the chances in volume now, which I like. It's not he just gets one, he misses, and then he sulks and he doesn't make those runs anymore, and he doesn't get himself in those good positions. He kind of just feels like he needs to be on the periphery. When he misses now, he goes, okay, all right, I missed because either X, Y, and Z. I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to get into that same position, and I'm either going to get fouled or I'm going to get it in this time. I think that's his mentality, and that's a huge shift from what it was last year, where he kind of just felt like that bus tag was just hanging on his neck. And he's like, oh, well, I'm not Holland, so I just guess I'm a scrub. Every time I flub a shot, every time I mistime a header, everybody's just going to shit on me. Now I think he's kind of broken past that stage of his Liverpool life cycle, where he's not super worried about that perception anymore, because he's got the backing of his team that they keep putting him in these spots to succeed. It's just incumbent upon him to just capitalize on him, and he's doing it a lot more now, which I think is just going to help everybody.
Brian, on that note about Nunez, like he is getting into that mentality that he's not a scrub, because I don't want no scrub because the scrub is a guy who won't get no love from me for sure. But let's move to the other side of the pitch. Caoimhín Kelleher, at least 2 very good reaction saves, and very comfortable with the ball. Alison Becker is 30 years old. He won't last forever. If we can keep Kelleher happy, do we have his replacement already on the books?
I've felt that way about Keller for a couple years now. I think that he's definitely Allison's replacement. I think we just had to go there to find the right type of competitions to keep him happy, to keep him in his side. I mean, because he was definitely toward the end of last season. If we weren't able to go there to provide him that type of the type of matches that he needs, he was ready to leave. And I think that that we have definitely potential. Even with Jaros, who's right behind him, right there, has a lots of potential also. So we got a pretty good string of goalkeepers. We have a couple on loan right now who again will provide the competition. But I think that Keller definitely is the heir apparent right there to Allison.
Moving a little bit forward, it was nice to see Konate back. It was nice to see Konate and Virgil back. But to me, Trevor, even despite the level of the opposition relative to what Liverpool Football Club is as a club, the team that was on the field was not obviously our strongest 11. Did you get the impression that Van Dijk was almost back to the way we remember him in terms of his leadership and his organization? I think he saved us a few times with some last-minute tackles or some good positioning and blocks. Do you think he's getting back to where he was before the injury, or was it just, again, the quality of the opposition in front of him?
Yeah, from the clips I saw, I only saw one where he kind of not necessarily caught up to a guy with the most breakneck of speed, but he was able to track down what was like I kept wanting to call him like Zod, because anybody with a Z last name, I just immediately go to just the Zod,
General Zod.
Superman. Yeah, because like you were talking about how the announcer was saying Gravenberg. I've heard like 7 different pronunciations of the LASK striker's name, and no, fuck it, he's just Zod now. So he was able to track down Zod, and he got him.
Xeris, just in case you're wondering, apparently. Or no, Zulj. Pardon me, Zulj. So you weren't far off.
But I heard like Zul, and there was no J. And then there was Zeus.
There is no Zul.
Zeus.
There's only Zul.
It was just very pretentious. So I just kind of threw it all out the window, and I'm like, okay, Zod, it's 3 letters. It's close to 4. Whatever horrible names I want to be called by LASK fans, whatever. Doesn't matter. It was one of those rounding about to the point. Yeah, he looked at least comfortable, which early on in the year he didn't look comfortable. He's seemingly recovered from the injury, but I think there's still a little bit of tentativeness with Virgil, where he wasn't ready to like attack everything. And tonight he at least looked ready to attack everything. Things didn't go necessarily 100% to plan from the defense, but he at least looked up to the task.
In terms of the second half, once we made the subs, obviously we got a little bit stronger on paper. It looked more like the Liverpool we've been seeing coming back into games, the strong version of Liverpool. Nunez's penalty, I thought, was a well-taken penalty. It was confident with more than anything else. You just knew where he was going to put the ball. We had that goal, obviously, from Diaz and the great cross. And then Salah doing his magic and nutmegging the keeper, which is always a great thing to see. We've spoken about this on the pre-matches and the post-matches with Cozzy, and I think we've said this here, Brian, on this show. We do have an attack that we can be confident in regardless of the situation, don't we?
Oh,
sorry, I froze up.
That's okay. That happens to me at the worst of times. That's why I don't have any kids.
But I mean, were you speaking about our defense still?
Say again.
Were you speaking about our defense still? I'm sorry, I lost your question right in the middle of it.
I was just saying, the attack, like we can be confident in the attack, like when we have the strongest players in the field, that regardless of what the situation in the game is, we know we can score the goals.
Oh, absolutely. I think our attack our attack is very fluid. I mean, as far as what we can choose from. I mean, I think we can mix and match right there. I mean, a lot of us still have some like little issues with how Gapco and Joe to fit into the mix sometimes there. But I think this this front lineup to me Diaz, Nunez, and Salah seem like to me like the real our strong front three at the moment, in my opinion.
Let's just look ahead to the rest of the group. I mean, it's really not any great shakes. We're already top with 5 games to go. It's bad to assume, but let's just assume on paper we win the home games. Trevor, we should be qualifying out of that group easily. So, in terms of the selection for Klopp, he really should be sticking with this kind of formula for the rest of the Europa League group stages, at least, shouldn't he?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a lineup we're going to see a lot outside of say we can kind of lock things down on like match day 4. If we're 3 out of 3 and we can like lock it down on match day 4, I think he'll put the closest thing that we'll see to our starting lineup in the group stage. Other than that, we're going to see a lot of just mishmash amalgamations like we saw today. Guys kind of not necessarily all playing out of position, but a lot of guys that are going to be not sort of used to playing each other in certain channels and stuff like that. And we'll see if it works, because it's not going to be huge steps up in competition from what LASK could bring to the table, at least at the group stage. And then we can kind of reassess what we need to do in the Europa League once we get through.
Brian, before we move on to the next thing, for both of you, if any of you recalled or paid any like specific attention, LASK had a player called Renner who, let me ask you if you remember who I'm talking about, looked like the bastard love child of Jordan Henderson and Diogo Jota. Is he a future Liverpool player in the making on that basis alone?
Sure.
Now, talking about bastard love childs, let's move on to Spurs, because they are the bastard love child of success and victory. And they nicknamed themselves failure because it's Spurs and they like to Spurs things up. Daniel Levy apparently saying he will happily sell up if there's a buyer and if he thinks it's in the best interests of Tottenham Hotspur. Trevor, start with you. Harry Kane, I think there's rumors in the paper that Harry Kane said he would have left Spurs anyway as long as Daniel Levy was there. If Daniel Levy wants to do anything in the best interest of Spurs, he would have left about 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, because he probably is one of the worst chairman, owners, part owners, whatever his position is, administrators of a club in the Premier League, isn't he?
He's that guy that everybody knows they think they're the smartest person in the room, but they're nowhere close. And he's been that way for a decade and change now. And everything that he's done, from the way he handled the windfall from Gareth Bale's sale to just the way he has these teams set up to attack even cup competitions, providing them with enough depth to at least get some silverware on one of those fronts. It's just mind-blowing how he's still stuck around in one way, shape, or form. He always has something to say, and when he does, it's never anything that anybody wants to hear, except for maybe this now that, oh, if the price is right, I'll step aside and blah blah blah. No, because if you say that and you mean that, there's people lining up to buy European football teams left, right, and center. So if you were having these conversations in earnest, this would have already happened and you would have been out on your ass 5 years ago. So the fact that you're saying this now is you just trying to save face along with your dumb, Harry's he's acclimating very well to Bayern, but we have a buyback clause. Yeah, when he's fucking 35. Yeah, enjoy that one. Appreciate it, Daniel. Just be gone.
Brian, should we have any sort of sympathy for a man who fires one of the best trophy winning managers a few weeks before a final in the League Cup, that if they'd won would have broken their trophy drought, and who knows what it would have done for those players to win a trophy? Or should we actually sympathise with the Spurs fans and say they could have actually won more if they had somebody competent in charge?
How Spursy of them. That's all I can say right there. But I mean, it's hard to go there and say Levy is as worse a chairman than Kenwright. I mean, I think the delusion is probably pretty equal with both of their sides right there, because neither one are a big club. I mean, you could go there. I'll bat with all the Arsenal supporters on that right there. Spurs are the Spurs. You know, I mean, they'll go there. You'll get a little bit. Like even this year right there. Okay, so you figure where they're batting at right now. They're up in the top 4. They'll be back about 7th or 8th by then, probably by the end about the middle of the season, because they're Spurs. I mean, they had Pochettino right there, who actually, to me is a manager that has so much hype with him, that brought them up to with a to the European Cup, but they still couldn't finish that right there. But it's just a destiny of a Spurs supporter right there. You're never going to win silverware. Even West Ham won silverware before Spurs.
That's true. That's true. If you've not won silverware before David Moyes, there's something wrong in that equation. Trevor, on that note, in terms of that 2016 season, if Levy had backed Pochettino better, with more players, a stronger squad, better depth, would they have overtaken Leicester, and would that Leicester fairy tale have been nothing but an also-ran story?
I don't want to believe that. I kind of want to. The romantic in me wants to keep that alive forever, just because there was so many things in play that Spurs had to get through in those last few weeks. And I knew that final Chelsea game was always going to be almost their cup final. We're like, all right, we're going to be able to take this away from Spurs. That was like Eden Hazard on another level. I think that was what put him properly in Real Madrid's shop window, where he was just going, okay, look at what I can do fully out of spite. Now put me in a Clasico and you just like give me 3 pages of things to just get me pissed off about Barcelona, and we'll be cooking with gas. Granted, that never happened because I guess he can't read, but that's neither here nor there. It was that. But that season is something where you look at it from the standpoint of what they had in terms of offensive guys in their prime, both starting and off the bench. There was no reason why that team should not have won the title, and shouldn't they, in the way they finish off that season, along with Leicester, both teams were trying to like give it away. That Arsenal probably should have won the fucking league that year. The way they came through at the end. But that was I think we should kind of just brush that to the side and let the 5,000 to 1 Leicester be there and not call that a 100% Spurs bottle job, even though it kind of is, but we'll just let the legacy of Leicester live. And I ran out of alliteration, but it just kind of keep Levy. Oh, there was my next.
There you go. Oh, come on. Come on.
Leave Levy lonesome.
There we go.
It took me a second. I had that little bit of buffer in there, but we got there.
I think that's a good one to end that particular topic on. So let's move on to the important stuff again, which is always Liverpool at this channel. We play West Ham on Sunday morning, for us Sunday afternoon for the two sets of players. Brian, West Ham, they should be confident, they should be positive, they should be happy. They're a different prospect than they ever were under Moyes. I mean, he is a figure of fun for us Liverpool fans because of his time at both Everton and United, but he does come across as a good, honest, earnest guy for the most part. He's just trying to do a job, loves the game of soccer, and is trying to do his best, even if his soccer is frequently horrendous to watch. But this West Ham team is playing fairly decent stuff. Do you see this game being a banana skin for us, or do you think that we will have too much for them? Or could it be yet again another example of the lack of foresight of English football, and two teams that play the European game on Thursday will just slug out some sort of a 0-0 or 1-0 draw?
I think the latter of all three right there. I think that it's going to be a very tiresome match to watch. I think that again, another one of these matches where you're going to have two sides cancel each other out. So I don't see anybody having an upper hand, in this match. I do want to say right there with Moyes, when you were on his topic, I feel for Moyes right there because for he was this chosen person to go replace Fergie, and the person to replace that right there is never going to be the person right there who's going to actually who's going to, if you don't win everything off that, you're always going to be, well, he isn't that manager, he isn't that type. But this West Ham side right there, they're sluggers, they're scrappers, and they fight through matches right there. So you have to have some kind of good feeling about them. I mean, I've never had a really hard spot about West Ham, never really, any ill feelings to right there. But I mean, it's like one of the sides you just see, it's like those glories of hearing about the old days when here in Millwall versus West Ham, that whole hooliganism kind of thing right there and stuff like that, the romanticism of that and stuff like that. But I do back to my little point right there. I don't see either side right there having a clear advantage in this match. I think it's going to be a very even match, but again, it's going to be one in the midfield, and I think that if there's one player who could probably win it for us, it's going to be Slabasai. I mean, I think that the kid is just coming leaps and bounds with me, and to me, he's a player that could grab a match like this by the scarf of the neck and push this team to the limit.
So Z mentions a player that I would be worried about there, Trevor Ward-Prowse. He's quite lethal with the old free kicks and set pieces. Is it important that we don't give away stupid free kicks around the box in this game?
Absolutely, and given our proclivity, as we showed today, to be kind of discombobulated when it comes to set pieces, James Ward-Prowse is a huge guy when it comes to that. And Bowen, we shouldn't discount his valuableness to those two, because he usually is a guy that if they're going to dummy a set play, he's going to be the one that kind of ends up with the ball and everybody's going to be scrambling around. And the form he's in this year, him with any sort of lane to the goal is going to be a dangerous asset to West Ham. And I think staying disciplined, if we're going to take a professional foul, do it very far away, and just kind of don't give those guys those opportunities. And I think that goes for corners and stuff too, because it's not just free kicks where Ward-Prowse really excels. He can take corners from either side, and his delivery is kind of when we were talking about people that were on teams going down this offseason that I wanted to see on Liverpool, he was one of them, because I just go, he's a guy that you could bring in for the second half just to take set pieces. I love Trent and I love Robbo on corners, but if you could just have them as ancillary characters, do short corners, whatever, kind of change things up, you could have him do everything in that regard, and he would just excel at it. And that's something now for West Ham that they can capitalize on, and we have to worry about.
Brian, in terms of the midfield, I think Trevor makes a great point there. If you are going to be giving away fouls, tactical fouls in this game with Ward-Prowse on the field, you want to be doing it around about the halfway line or the edge of the centre circle. So with that in mind, how would you shape the midfield? Would you go with McAllister, Jobo, and maybe Jones, or would you stick Endo in there, or would you feed off Gravenberch's good start and keep him in there somehow, and then McAllister and Szoboszlai as the box to box players, or the other two midfielders with McAllister sitting? Like how would you shape that midfield to make sure that we could minimize the damage that they can do in set pieces?
I think that what we saw last week was a tired McAllister, and I mean, you can see the other matches right there how he actually acted better at being in that spot and being playing in that number 6 role. I think that I would still kind of keep him, Szoboszlai, and I think Curtis Jones. I mean, I still think that Curtis Jones right there is a type of player, and you can obviously see probably today right there with him not playing that there's going to be a lot of matches with him in the Premier League. They're going to be involving him in this. They're going to be involving him, and I think that the way the slide is going to go, I mean, I really think McAllister's going to be in the back right there, because I still don't think that Endo is fully integrated into the side. I don't know, and the same thing with Gravenberch right there. I think that this is kind of like a bring Gravenberch into a meld with this Europa League squad, but I don't think he's ready for a full Premier League as far as like starting position yet. So I think that you're probably going to see the same thing that Klaus are running the entire time with with McAllister, Szoboszlai, and Jones.
Trevor, do you go with Nunez up front for the sheer physicality and the chaos, or do you put Gakpo back in as the false 9 with Diaz and Salah either side of him?
I think this has got a Nunez start written all over it, because Areola is a guy that likes to have a lot of space.
He's a bit of a tit.
Yeah,
just so we know.
He likes to. He's that person that at a party doesn't like people sitting on the couch with him. He needs to like get wide and just take up a lot of space. And when people disrupt that, it makes him very upset. And I think, well, Gakpo is great with connectivity and everything. Nunez is going to be that guy that's going to upset his apple cart and maybe do it early. And West Ham's defense is just I'd say even more susceptible to red cards than ours. They are very petulant, very risk-taking center backs, and if you just throw the fucking wild horse in there and let him have them make mistakes and really force Areola to kind of just be he has to do a lot more than he wants to. I think that could really be bad news for West Ham. I agree with Brian with the fact that they're both coming off a European game on Thursday. I think there's going to be a lot of just catch can type of crap where there's not going to be a lot of risk taking. But if there's ever a guy that's going to just blow that entire game plan up, it's Darwin Nunez.
Brian, in terms of the attack, we have Nunez, we have Salah. Do you think Jota goes in for Diaz, or do you think Klopp sticks with the two players that are comfortable on the wings that can stretch the game and give space to Nunez up front?
It's got to be Diaz and Mo on the wings. I mean, there's no other choice at the moment right there. This isn't the type of matchup that you want to try to break down the side like you would like like a I'd say like one of your bottom tier teams like an Everton. I'm gonna say bottom with Everton, and then and like a Luton Town and those type of squads that they're just gonna try to absorb. West Ham's going to go after us. I mean, and I think that we have to go right back after them. And there's only one way to do it is to go there and keep keep them occupied by having both our wings going toward like their lines and their right backs and left backs and getting crosses in there for Nunez. So I don't see any change. I think that I said earlier right there, that's our strongest front three, and it's going to have until otherwise. That's going to be our starting front three.
Trevor, I'm always one for the mad predictions. I have Spurs beating Arsenal 4-0. If anybody watched the Premier League review show this coming weekend. But my prediction is, and tell me if you agree, and then Brian, you can tell me if you agree with this. Just looking at him for 5-10 minutes the first game, and then all of the game today. Gravenberch, whichever way you say his name, gets his first Liverpool goal this weekend.
If he gets in, I think there's a decent chance of him getting his second assist. Because I think West Ham late in the game, if they're chasing, and this is very hyperbolic because I don't think it's going to be something where we go up 3 goals and then it's just them chasing, because that's just not the way Liverpool games go anymore. It's gonna be here's a sloppy corner and they've boggled it over the line and blah blah blah. Now everything's moving, but I think he deserves from if he's healthy and everybody was saying more it was just kind of maintenance getting him off the field today when they did. If he's able to go and give it half an hour, I very much think that he could get on there and make a difference. But I'm gonna say assist, not a goal.
Brian, what do you say?
I'm gonna agree with what Trevor said right there. I think that if he gets in, the point is where is he gonna get in at right there? Because right now we're running. I mean, we're kind of starting to become dependent on Szoboszlai like we were with Gerrard. I mean, with these runs and with how he's grasping games. And it seems like that's kind of like the side that Gravenberch kind of went in on a little bit in that role. I mean, only other place I see, I mean, I haven't really seen him on the other side where Jones would normally play at right there. So Jones would be the person I could see him replacing. I don't see him replacing Szoboszlai. I don't see him replacing McAllister right now. You have to have that kind of that strength in your midfield. But if he gets in, I like him. I think we can get an assist out of him. I don't know if he's ready to get that goal in him with this West Ham side.
Trevor, very quickly, your score prediction.
2-1 to the good guys, but the goal is not going to piss us off. It's going to be they're going to score a good one. West Ham's going to score a good one. It's going to be a nice strike from either Antonio or Bowen. We'll be upset because we gave him a goal, but it won't be some dog shit 17 deflection goal that will piss us off.
Brian, your score prediction.
I'm gonna go 2-2, but I'm gonna air like the previous Trevor from past weeks. There's gonna be a goal that's gonna piss us off, and I can see that happening right there. That it's gonna be something that we're gonna see some kind of lackadaisical little thing that's gonna happen where the ball's gonna bounce in the box like 3 or 4 times, and then we're gonna clear it. It's gonna clear right outside the box. It's gonna be some like super goal that we never expected. So I'm still saying with the 2-2. I think that both these sides are going to have going to be a little bit leggy, but I think that there's nothing. Nobody has a clear advantage in this match.
The 1 week I break.
I'm going to go 3-0 to Liverpool. Yeah, no, I got to go for Liverpool 3-0 because I'm always hopeful for another clean sheet. I don't know why, but miracles do happen. So before we go, just arrange for the threshold question. And I started to think about it during the program, and I did. I think I have a good one. So we'll start with Trevor. Would you rather have Marouane Fellaini's feet and skills, or David Moyes' face and ginger hair?
Well, it is kind of the Halloween season, so David Moyes' face and hair could be very good for job prospects.
You also get to be Gollum without spending money on a costume.
Yeah, that's the thing. And you could be the screamer from that painting. You have so many different options. You could be Judge Doom getting run over by the steamroller and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. There's endless possibilities with David Moyes' face. But granted, it's only a month. You only got a month to make that work. Whereas Fellaini, I could trip over my own feet and I could get workman's comp so many times over at so many different places by just being so bumbling. And my receding hairline would go away and I would just get this huge, absolute just mop of a head. I think I'm going to go with the Fellaini. I don't like getting hurt, but hey, at least I won't look like I am perpetually seeing ghosts.
Brian, what say you?
All right, I'm going to go with the Fellaini right there for the Halloween purpose right there, because I have a 10-foot clown and right now that I've already set up for Halloween. It's a perfect 10-foot Fellaini, basically. It has the big cumbersome feet and stuff like that, so I'd fit perfectly with him. I could just stand underneath him the whole time. But just think of all the other things that you could do. You know, like shrunken head that's on Beetlejuice, perfect Fellaini costume. You know, I mean, there's so many different ways you can go there and do a Fellaini. So, yeah, obviously, definitely Fellaini.
I'm going to go with Moyes. I'm gonna go for Moyes simply because one of the few things I could actually do as a player was pass the ball accurately, and I don't want that stigma. I don't want that taken away from me and have the stigma of having Marouane Fellaini's feet. So on that note, it just remains to say thank you to Trevor and thank you to Brian. The Fantasy Football Show is up next at 9 p.m. Eastern, and then whatever time zone you're in for that. Make sure you like and subscribe on all of the social media. Smash those buttons, hit those bells, and press those enter keys and click those left and right clicks on your mouse and touchpads. We will be back on tomorrow morning for the morning coffee, and I'm probably sure there's going to be a pre and post match for the game on Sunday, and then we're back to our normal scheduled programming next week again with the Monday pod and the PL pod and the PL review pod and the morning coffees, and us, the cool gang, ASTV back next Thursday. So make sure you stay tuned in, make sure you're following us, and make sure you're sharing and liking and commenting, and get involved in the Discord because the chat gets a little bit spicy there sometimes, and it's good fun to watch. Other than that, have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy the game. Up the Reds, and we'll see everybody next week.
Up the Reds.